The sentencing is set now for July 11th. Judge Merchan sets the sentencing just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Joining me now is New York Congressman Nick Langworthy, a member of the House Oversight, Agriculture and Rules Committee. Congressman, you were just endorsed by President Trump. Congratulations on the endorsement. What's your reaction to this verdict?
Thank you. It's a very dark day in our justice system. You've seen the weaponization of our government time and again, and there's never been an American citizen that's been attacked more than Donald Trump has at this point. You know, they're trying to take his freedom. They're trying to take a fair presidential election away from us. I mean, Alvin Bragg ran as a George Soros-backed DA that ran on a platform of get Trump. I mean, we saw the same with Letitia James. We've seen the lawfare that they have conducted in New York. They've made a mockery of our judicial system. And this was, you know, from pillar to post, a corrupt DA, a corrupt judge, a donor to Biden, and a corrupted jury, you know, after the judge's instructions. I think this is disgusting, but it's created an energy around supporters of the president and those that may have only been moderate supporters of the president that have an energy that we haven't seen before. I mean, you saw Win Red, the fundraising platform for Republicans across the country, crash yesterday. I think that's a sign of things to come. They have awoken a sleeping giant here.
Well, why? Why are they so afraid of President Trump?
Well, I mean, virtually everything in this country is worse off than it was during the Trump administration. You see it no more, you know, as a congressman. I mean, I hear it every week in the grocery store when I'm talking to my constituents. I mean, they're struggling. They're struggling mightily. They don't have an optimistic view of the economy or the future. And we had an economy that was on fire during President Trump's administration. You know, you have the raging inferno at the southern border, the virtual invasion of our country. This all has happened on purpose by the stroke of a pen of this president. The polls don't lie. President Trump is leading in the swing states. He's leading all over the country. They know it, and they're using these extraordinary measures to try to silence his voice.
Well,
it's disgusting.
I get that. Yeah, no, I get that. But you're an elected official. What are you going to do about it? I mean, you know, is this just going to stand? So many people coming on the show and speaking out, saying that this was rigged and this was, you know, so biased judge, the daughter making money, etc. Are we just going to talk about it? What can you do about it?
Well, we're going to organize, we're going to fight, we're going to win in November. I mean, the American people have to make this decision. We have to win elections. You're not going to win elections in Manhattan. Alvin Bragg, this is a place where Donald Trump got 5% of the vote. There was no jury of his peers. It was a jury of his adversaries. Clearly, this was orchestrated. And they found the venue that he couldn't win. I mean, there was no opportunity for him to get a fair jury, and they refused to allow him a venue change. There's a reason that the Florida trial is not coming out, because they're afraid that he would be acquitted. And now they get to run this campaign and say the words convicted felon. Yeah. And that is exactly what Joe Biden wanted. Well, we have to go win this election. It's of the utmost importance. Is the most important election of our lifetime. And Republicans and people that, you know, really appreciate freedom in this country have to organize, fight, and get ready to win.
Well, you mentioned the other trials. The Georgia trial scheduled for August, that's likely going to be delayed. You've got the Supreme Court's decision on Trump's presidential immunity. That should come out in late June. We'll see what that shows us. Do you think that this verdict has any impact on the Supreme Court's thinking right now?
I'm not sure, you know, what's in the minds of the 9 Supreme Court justices, but, you know, I do think that the delay in a lot of these other cases is part and parcel to the fact that they believe that President Trump will be acquitted. And they don't want that headline in the Biden White House right now. I mean, there's a great orchestration going on across this country, and it comes from the White House.
Yeah, and yet, look at what's going on the Democrat side of the aisle. Your fellow New York Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, reacting to the verdict at a town hall in the Bronx yesterday. You know, just last week, thousands turned out for Trump in the event just down the street in the Bronx. Here she is yesterday. Watch this.
Despite the initial statements trying to politicize this verdict, saying that it was somehow partisan or Democrats or what have you, Donald Trump was convicted by a jury of his peers. His peers that were people here in New York, his defense attorneys, and both sides have the opportunity to screen who the people who serve on that jury are for partisanship.
Congressman, your reaction to AOC?
It's ludicrous. I mean, there's a reason that this trial was brought forward by Alvin Bragg. There's a reason that he's been attacked by Letitia James, and it's a reason that they brought the venue in Manhattan, because they knew that they could get a tainted jury that would never give Donald Trump a fair shot. I mean, just look at the election results that we've had in Manhattan. It is the most liberal place in New York State. I know a little bit about the politics of New York. I mean, Manhattan is about the worst place for any Republican. It's, you know, we see greater opportunities in the Bronx, as you saw last week, than you have in Manhattan. And for AOC to try to say that this is just a fair trial, this is them putting their minions forward to try to, you know, celebrate this victory. You saw that smugness among all the people in Alvin Bragg's team, including an official from, you know, that came from the Biden Justice Department, Colangelo. There's a cohesion there between the Biden DOJ and Alvin Bragg to bring this localized charge. There's not an American that would have faced the charges that Donald Trump did. And then the jury instructions that came from this judge, he put his thumb on the scale right there. Yeah. And sent the order as to how this was going to play out.
Do you think Trump can still win in November?
I absolutely do. I think there's a new energy this morning and last night. You saw in the wake of it. I heard from people I haven't heard from in years, very casual Republicans that are, you know, they may have defected to Biden in the last election. I didn't have the heart to ask them that. They're going to vote for Donald Trump based on what they've seen. They've seen a weaponization of their government. They've seen all the three-letter agencies used against their peers. Yeah. And if they could do it to Donald Trump, they could do it to any of us. And that's what's on the line in this next election.
Certainly is disturbing. Congressman, thank you. We'll be watching your work. Nick Langworthy just this morning.